Hi, and welcome to the Metaverse. I'm Tamra Knepfer, president of METABRANDS. We help usher brands into the metaverse, whether it's through events, NFTs, gaming, pretty much you name it, from strategy to execution. A little bit of background, I actually come from the merchandise licensing business, been in it for many years, many decades, starting with the Walt Disney Company, Sesame Workshop, American Greetings, started my own agency about 12 years ago, and now we are venturing into the metaverse. With me today, I have Benyamin Ahmed, who is a 12-year-old who's made a fortune minting NFTs. We're going to hear a bit about what he's done. And Mike Shaman, who is designing non-fungible heroes, a collective of NFT creators to let them create and earn. So we're going to hear their stories and talk a bit about NFTs and the impact on the toy world and what every person in the industry should be thinking about NFTs. So Benyamin, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into NFTs? How did you first hear about it? What was your interest, and how did this all happen?
So I got interested in NFTs early last year. Originally, I just found them as an online flex, but later started admiring the artwork and the utility. My dad's friend had also bought an NFT called a Rare Pepe for $27,000. And I instantly became fascinated that someone was willing to spend this much money on a JPEG. So I started researching. And although it seemed ridiculously expensive at the time that he'd purchased this NFT, he then sold it a few months later for $500,000. This caught my eye, and I wanted to get myself into the NFT space.
So for those that don't know, can you explain, is an NFT just the JPEG? Can you explain a little bit more in terms of what an NFT is and what makes them so valuable?
So an NFT stands for non-fungible token. Everyone understands the non and the token part, but they struggle with fungible. Fungible means replaceable. For example, money is fungible. If I give you £10 today, next week you can return any £10. It doesn't have to be that exact £10 I gave you. A real world example of an NFT is an airline ticket. It's very specific. Airport, date and time, passenger, airline. You can't use it to travel anywhere in the world.
Great. And Benjamin, can you remind us how old you are? Are you 12?
Yes.
And you started doing this how long ago?
So I only started in the NFT space, in the crypto space, early last year.
And where do you live?
London, UK.
Excellent. So you saw this interest, you saw people making a lot of money, and then you started drawing whales. What was it about whales? How many did you do? And what exactly did you do to get them minted and online and sold?
So the weird whales are actually a mashup of crypto culture. The pixel art is inspired from the famous collection CryptoPunks. And I went with whales as a whale in crypto is someone who has 1,000 Bitcoins. And many of the collections at the time, like Bored Apes, were doing an animal, and whales just seemed like the right animal to do. If I did all the whales by hand, it would take ages. So creating the NFTs consisted of making many trait and base layers. You then fed these traits into a Python script, which I was kindly shared by an open source community. And when you hit run on this Python script, it produces your whales automatically. And it was amazing watching all these different unique combination of whales appearing and almost hatching in a file on my computer. After creating the whales, I coded a smart contract, and it's pretty consistent across all smart contracts. You just get the existing one that many collections use and change the variables. So when it says the collection name, you change it to your collection name. The amount of NFTs in the collection, you change it to your specifics. And after that, I coded a simple website with a mint function that was connected to the smart contract and allowed people to mint my Weird Well NFTs.
Wow, so you did the coding yourself? How did you learn coding?
So I've had a long background in coding. I started coding at the age of 5. My dad, he's a web developer, and he would often come at home, bring out his laptop and start coding. And me and my brother would just sniff around and see what he was doing. He noticed our interest in what he was doing. So he set us up with laptops and we just started coding. It was just a fun little learning experience that we do here and then, but he realized that we were receptive to this stuff and we started getting more serious. And now we consistently do a coding challenge every day.
Wow, that's great. So all this talk about the whales, can you show us some?
Yes. So here is my Weird World collection. So as you can see, they've done 1,800 ETH volume traded, which is around $8 million. And here are some of the whales. They're all unique.
Wow. What is it about this, do you think, that got so many people interested in spending so much money on these?
So my age was a big key to why many people had invested in my project. Most of the projects were creating a roadmap. They would say, once we've sold out, we'll work towards a game or merchandise. However, with my collection, I did it as a learning experience. I wasn't expecting any return except for the educational I'll learn about NFTs. And that I didn't make a roadmap with my collection, but people were buying these NFTs. They wanted to support my coding journey, support me in this NFT space. And I was really happy that people were willing to connect with my story.
That's fantastic. So will we be seeing other collections from you, Benjamin?
So I don't want to be known as the Weird World kid for the rest of my life. I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. In the future, I want to do an infrastructure business with my brother, which is where the real opportunities are at. However, currently I'm working on a few NFT collections to gain experience. I've been working with Shaman over at NFHeroes on the dev side. However, I am working on an interesting project currently. It's with the former head of digital at Barclays, and it's called Work in FinTech. And I like to think of work in FinTech as a bridge. There are many people who leave universities, but they're not sure what to do with their life. And there are many companies that are looking for employees. However, they just can't find the right people. So Work in FinTech aims to close this gap and educate young people and then send them over to high-paying jobs in the crypto space.
Wow, you are some amazing 12-year-old, I'll tell you that. So I'm going to throw it over to Mike Shaman, creator of Non-Fungible Heroes. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, what you do, and even how you got involved with Benjamin, please?
Yeah, I started off, so I've been an entrepreneur most of my career, and I had an agency called Helios that was built to provide brand experiences utilizing new technologies. So we were doing a lot of augmented reality, a lot of virtual reality, working with Fortune 500 brands. As I explored new technologies, I ran into the crypto space and bought a little bit of cryptocurrency. I saw the beginnings of NFTs with a product called NBA Top Shot, which are collectible NBA cards. Started collecting there. That kind of led me further down the path into the collectible space, the digital collectible space. That's where I met V, who is a founder of Boring Bananas. And V and Benyamin had already been working together. Weird Whales had already been launched. Given my background of kind of building brands, I had made some suggestions as to ways that V could improve the site for his project, the Boring Bananas company. And he took that to heart, and we started to work together a little bit more closely. Eventually, I left my day job because I just fell in love with the space. Getting back to your question about what are NFTs and why are they important, I think Benjamin did a great job of describing what they are, but it's also important to know their potential impact. The reason that people are buying these, and the reason it's not just a JPEG that you can right click, save, and own, is because on the blockchain, it can be verified and authenticated that you are the single owner of that digital thing. right? If you think about that with an airline ticket, right? You are the only person that can use that thing. This is the same, but across all industries. You can go on the blockchain and it says Mike Shaman owns this token. Well, people are using that for social capital. They're using these NFTs as their profile pictures, or PFPs as they're known by their acronym. They're using them for the communities that are springing up around them. You know, you have fellow collectors, and you know, I think the toy industry has those communities and fans, and it's all about trying to harness the fan passion that exists around a brand. And so communities are forming around these individual NFTs and collectors because they have a similar mindset. They're innovators, they're young, they're all in this like nascent space that's really, really early. Then aside from the community, there's also the utility. And Ben touched on this as well. That utility is, if you own this digital thing, we know, because it's on blockchain, it's verified, that means you can access these other things. And maybe that's another digital item. Maybe that's a real world experience. Maybe it's a piece of merchandise, right? A merchandise or in a toy. So none of those can be replicated just because a picture lives on your desktop computer, right? All of this is verified through the chain, and we can determine whether or not you are the true owner of a digital good. And then mixed in with all of that is the financial value. So you have social capital, you've got community, you've got utility, and then the financial value. I bought this thing. I mean, Benjamin's whale started off at, you know, being sold for $100, $200. And now the least expensive one is, you know, $1,000. So when you think about the interests creating community, the engagement, all of those elements coming together, that's really what NFTs are all about. And all of that is what drew me into the space to help build Non-Fungible Heroes.
Tell us a bit about NFHeroes. How did you come up with the idea? And maybe you can show us exactly what it is.
Yeah, I'd love to say I came up with the idea, but it was really a community-led element. And it's one of the exciting things about NFTs in general, and this gets back to the community, is it was thrown out to the community, what type of experience do you want to create? And they said, oh, we think the hero-villain dynamic would be cool. And then they said, what, you know, who do you want your main characters to be? And they chose the Night Ape. And yeah, I'll share my screen and bounce through a couple of slides with you guys, so that you can get a sense of it. We have, and by the way, we have fantastic artists, Mad Boogie Productions down in Brazil. They're amazing. We have incredible creatives on our team. We have the community all comes together, and we're actually building this story together. So NFHeroes, as you see, I'll take you through this, but the concept is we're going to provide some guardrails and a little bit of common mythology for people to follow. And then the community will participate either through brainstorms. We're actually doing interactive quests in our Discord, which is kind of our chat rooms. This is a shot of some of the team members. This is a shot of the organization. We released our collection in late September. It sold out in 12 minutes. It generated about $2 million. We have 4,000 holders. So now you have all these people in our community who had decided the theme and decided some of the elements. And then, you know, they start telling us, here are the type of characters we want to create. What are the names we're going to suggest? Let's talk about their backstories. Let's build those backstories together. So these are some of the one-of-one characters, and those are going to be some of the main characters in the series. This is a brief overview of the artists. As I mentioned, they are phenomenal. They are ex-Disney and Marvel and Blizzard, and name your AAA studio that they're coming from. I'll just breeze through a few of these to give you a sense of the intellectual property that we're pursuing, and the median. This is all built towards a median entertainment destination. So as you go through the storyline and all of the elements within it that are being community created, the goal is create a comic book, create a TV series, create toys and merchandise. That is 100% the path. I think the unique part about all of this is the fact that it's not coming from a single creative or a single writer. It's coming from everybody that's participating in the space. This is one of our comic panels. And that that group of creatives and that group of individuals is also giving us the sense of what direction they want to go. So do we want the comic out first? We actually have just released an idle game, which is kind of an online interaction that people can use their NFTs in a game and actually be competing with one another for experience and for tokens that they can use to purchase various elements. This is the first shot of the generative collection. So Ben mentioned earlier, we have 8,888 characters in the collection. All of them are completely unique. So when they're generated, they share some similar traits. You see the male and female heroes here, but every single one is unique in its own right. So yeah, that's kind of the direction. And, you know, from a toy perspective, bringing it back into the toy fair world, I think that seeing these types of creative entities emerge from the NFT space is fascinating. There's a massive opportunity because most creators are young, they are passionate, they are innovative, and they are looking for ways to disrupt the traditional processes and forms of media and entertainment. And honestly, you're going to start seeing a lot of different projects and a lot of different creative worlds being born out of this space.
Yeah, one term I hear a lot about is fandom as it relates to NFTs and the importance of having, you know, a fan base that is, you know, kind of built in, that, you know, is part of a community. And there's so many toy brands and properties that are within the toy industry that already have kind of that baked in fandom to it. And I've heard a lot about Discord. People have asked me a lot as it relates to NFTs. Why is Discord so important? Why are people going there? How do you get there? This NFHeroes is on Discord, is that correct?
Yeah, we are. Discord is kind of like the water cooler. In fact, it's a lot like Slack. If folks out there use Slack, it's basically a common messaging platform, but it can be used by the entire community. It's a lot more nuanced than Slack in that you can assign people roles. We can determine what NFTs you own, and the NFTs that you own can actually gate what you have access to. So from a digital perspective, if you own a hero, you can that's the only way you can get into the Hall of Heroes. If you own a villain in our world, that's how you get into the villain's lair. And those are separate rooms, right? So when we have engagements, when we're chatting, or when we have competitions, we kind of stratify a little bit between the heroes and villains. But Discord is an incredibly important tool because that is where everybody meets. That's where they chat. Twitter is also kind of the standard NFT news source. And between them, it's where 90% of interaction in the NFT space happens.
So question, this is actually kind of a two-part question. In terms of licenses or properties or brands, these are two new properties that you created, Benjamin created with the whales. What is it about it when you take a property that nobody's heard of, that why would someone be willing to be a part of something that is brand new like this, that doesn't have any existing equity?
You want me to answer that one, Ben, or do you want to handle?
Yes, you can go ahead.
All right.
Let's go to you, Ben.
You know, it's the reason that people will be interested in this is kind of the reason behind ownership of NFTs in general. It's participative. It's the fact that a brand, instead of a monologue, right? And if you look at the Marvel universe, for example, it's fantastic storytelling, right? It's awesome. The movies are fabulous. I love the Marvel universe. But it is a monologue, right? It is coming at you from one studio, and they are feeding you that entertainment. In this space, you can actually not only own a character, but you can control the direction of creative. You can help participate in the building of the world. You can connect with others who have similar interests. Oh, and by the way, because you own a character and because you own the other NFTs, if the property is successful, you stand to gain financially. So I think that the goal, and this is the goal of Web3 overall, is participation. People get rewarded for participation. And that's the difference between standard media franchises and what's coming from Web3.
Okay, now the second part of the question, and Ben, this one's for you. So we just talked about properties that are brand new that people are going to because of the novelty of NFTs and so forth. What about brands that already exist? What about brands that exist, for example, a plush toy? Can people actually start an NFT off of a brand or property that's already existed in the toy space? How does that transition happen?
So I think when I look at NFTs, there are three ways in which toy brands can get into NFTs. The first one is physical toys that then come with a digital component. For example, like the recent Adidas NFT launch. The second group is NFTs that are fully digital, and this is most of the NFT collections out there. And the third group is NFTs that start off digital, but then later branch out into the physical world. For example, NFHeroes, they've started off as a digital NFT collection, but can now expand into games, merch, and various other sectors.
So if these properties are kids' properties, like plush toys and so forth, what is it about this space, whether it's Discord or buying NFTs? I mean, is this really a space for children? Is this a safe place where kids asking their parents for cryptocurrency? How do you see kids interacting in this space, and how do we know that it's safe for companies and parents?
Yeah, I can answer that if you want, just as a parent of a 7 and a 9-year-old. So no, it is not a particularly safe space at the moment. In fact, because it's so early and it's the Wild West, it is very chaotic. It is challenging for users to get onboarded. It is hard to buy things. It's hard to understand the market. You have counterfeits and you have scams and you have all sorts of terrible things popping up as they do. I mean, look, in every aspect of life, right? You also have counterfeit manufacturers and gray markets and things. So I'd say that there's definitely an analog. There definitely is a path of education that needs to happen for kids to be able to participate in the space. The one thing I will say, though, is that we have seen, and I'm sure everybody in the toy universe is aware of this, kids are not making a distinction between physical and digital purchases. They're already buying things with Robux. They're already buying things on Fortnite. They're already buying things in Minecraft, right? The difference with NFTs is this opportunity to expand that universe, participate and build, and B, to be honest, the ability to trade it and the ability to sell it and the ability for it to be removed from that world and to be put on a marketplace here so that they can sell it for something of real value, they can trade it for something else, and the ability to do that instantaneously, which I think is kind of a little bit different than the physical world.
So given that, what advice would you have for toy companies that are looking at this space? Is this, give it some time, or is this something that they need to get into now? Is this all hype? We're hearing a lot about, this is all going to be a big bubble that bursts at some point. What advice would you give toy companies? Ben, you want to give that a shot?
Yes. So I think toy companies should definitely get into NFTs. We've already seen with Adidas, they've gone into NFTs with their recent NFT launch. And 95% of use cases of NFTs are waiting to be discovered. So I would say when toy brands come to launch an NFT collection in this space, they should do something different and innovative. They've got lots of money, so they can experiment with machine learning, robotics, and AI and do something different than the existing NFT collections out there.
And I'd echo that. I would say getting started now is a good idea. The concept of the bubble is certainly something that people should be aware of. But if you look at the core areas of value that I mentioned earlier, right? The social capital, community, utility, and financial value. Those four things in our history of interaction have not really come together in a single way. There's not been a confluence of those to be able to recapture value for a brand that you're representing or wearing. It's happened, maybe like with baseball cards when you're buying them, maybe with some collectibles. I know the NFT space gets compared unfavorably to Beanie Babies very often. And there is absolutely some truth in that many collections will not succeed, they will fail, and their value will go to zero. But the ones that innovate, and this gets back to the toy companies, the ones that come at this from a different vector, the ones that have established brands, the ones that start interacting in the space are going to have a massive advantage. They're going to have more mind share. They're going to have the ability to extend their world beyond a brick and mortar store and beyond Amazon or whoever your distributor is. They're going to look into the world of pure digital distribution. And anybody who's in the world of pure digital distribution knows the margins there are very different than having to deal with supply chains and logistics and things. So even if it's a digital twin, a companion, don't think of NFTs as a substitute, because they aren't. They are a complement. They are a companion piece. I think that's the way to be thinking about it from a toy manufacturing perspective.
So when you talk about functionality, can you give some examples? Because obviously functionality and being innovative are critical to having successful NFT programs and using them to help the brand. But can you give some more examples of what you mean by functionality?
Yeah, I mean, Ben mentioned the Adidas drop, right? If you own an Adidas NFT, they are going to send you 4 outfits this year. So immediate utility, immediate physical utility, right? Steve Aoki, the EDM artist, he is dropping an NFT. And back to the Adidas, that originally was for sale for about $600, $700. It's now worth $4,000, right? So not only is it increased in value, but the utility stays the same. So Steve Aoki is going to be giving out physical tickets to one of his events. Many projects are providing merch. Maybe that's hoodies or t-shirts or hats or beanies. There are companies that are shipping out free toys. I know Super Plastic is getting deeply into the space and doing a really good job of connecting with Web3 originated brands and NFT projects that are just emerging and starting to provide toys. And that's not things you give for free. It's limited edition. You can only buy this thing if you own an NFT. And so if you think about it as the access pass, that's really where the functionality comes in my mind.
And how is that different from like a loyalty program, or is it?
I mean, I think it's kind of a modern day loyalty program. It's just that in this world, you can use your loyalty points for anything in the digital universe. So if you think about, I got Chase points for my card, or I have Amex points, you can only use it in that ecosystem. You can't necessarily cash them out for money. In this case, you own a thing, you're getting value, and you can exchange that value for dollars anytime. You can, because you own that thing, they'll give you more things. There are a ton of similarities between loyalty programs, just it's not so narrow as to only be able to be used in one ecosystem. It's broad enough to say, in the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is the gold standard of NFTs, they gave everybody a mutant ape, right? Which if you own this one, you get this one. The value of what the mutant ape is today is about $75,000. They gave everybody one for free. This is for a $300 NFT, only because the demand is there, only because that one in particular has become a lifestyle brand that has really taken off. That's like the extreme example. But that type of utility, and you can sell it immediately and convert it into cash and bring it back into your bank account. So that is the big difference, is the extension of utility to real financial value and instantaneous financial value.
Great. Ben, if you're meeting with a toy company, owner of a toy company that doesn't know what an NFT is, doesn't even know where to begin, what advice would you give them? Where should they start?
So the NFT space currently, it's very hard to get used to. Like Shaman mentioned earlier, it's chaotic, it's crazy. There's loads of scams flying everywhere. when I got started in the space, I took a solid few weeks or even months educating myself about NFTs. I wanted to know NFTs left, right, upside down, through. I wanted to understand that I had 100% grasp of what NFTs are. So educating yourself in the space is definitely important. And also, I got used to transferring funds around from different wallets, understanding about Etherscan, which is like the blockchain, and how transactions work and how gas fees work. So education is key to get started in the NFT space.
Yeah, that's something I do a lot of, to be honest. Almost every one of my meetings, because we are pursuing Hollywood, right? We made some really great progress, by the way, and in terms of and hit some very big milestones in terms of deals that we have already signed or about to sign. And every meeting, if people are not familiar with NFTs, I usually start off with about 15 or 20 minutes about the impact of them. And that's some of the things that I've discussed today. Some of it is actually talking about kind of the broader impact of blockchain, because when you have an understanding of blockchain as this, unchangeable ledger, this unchangeable database, and then you start thinking about other applications across society outside of the NFT space, you see that the core technology that all of this built on is going to be a foundational part of our digital future. And that's in every sector. That's real estate and automotive, and name any sector, and it will be a big part of that. NFTs in particular are important to understand the nuance and the mindset of those who are buying, those who are collecting. It is a highly speculative market at the moment, but it is also an incredibly loyal audience that is being built across the board, because everybody who's in this space is very convinced that these are the building blocks of our digital future.
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out, there are other ways to do NFTs other than just buying and selling them. I've had a lot of conversations with companies that want to be equal across the audience. Right now it's very much perceived as a market for wealthy people because the prices are so high. So brands are talking about giving away NFTs and using them as premium and promotional elements. So that's also something to think about. In the meantime, Ben, I'm a mom. So can you make me feel better about, having my child go and, purchase an NFT and go into a Discord channel and become part of this community?
So although there are many scams in the NFT space, I find the NFT space a very welcoming place to be. Like, the Discords are so nice. Everyone's been nice to me in the NFT space. They've been welcoming. They've helped me across my journey. And it was through the amazing community at Boring Bananas, which is now NFH, that I was able to launch my collection. So I would definitely recommend your child to definitely pop into the NFH Discord. It's such a nice and welcoming place.
And are we going to see Weird Whale plush and other kinds of toys?
Well, that would be great.
So, okay, last question, Mike, for you. If you were to pick any toy brand out there to get into NFTs, which one would you pick?
That's a tough one. It's so funny because the way that brands are struggling to enter right now, because they're coming with, like, Disney launched Vivi, their NFT platform, but it's kind of an oddly run centralized platform that hasn't been well received by broader NFT collectors. I mean, clearly, Disney's always the answer to everything, right? They're already in it. I think some of the niche players will have a lot greater success. Honestly, anybody, it's not a specific one company. I couldn't choose a Mattel or a Hasbro or name your biggies. It's the first one I'd want to come in is somebody who is willing to create something with their community, to be willing to take community advice and actually give up some control of the direction of the property and allow the entire community that forms around their creation to help build it. And maybe that's designing a toy together, right? Maybe that's we're going to create a giant group and we're going to have everybody from 10 years old to 75 years old, and everybody's going to have input. You were saying earlier about people dropping tokens. You can do that in a governance perspective to say, hey, everybody who has a token gets a vote, and we're going to vote on these things, right? Should it be red or blue? Should it, have 2 legs or 4? Should it be a panda or a raccoon? All of those things are ways to engage an audience that haven't existed before, and it's engaging them at the point of creation. And it's engaging them to participate in that world, and also giving the tools to the audience to build their own. So sorry, it's a really long answer to say, whatever brand has the courage to step in and embrace their audience in that way, I think they're probably going to be the first winners.
And Ben, do you have any thoughts in terms of brands that you'd like to see in the NFT space?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Schaiman. I'd rather see a small collection or brand rise from the bottom to the top, rather than just a brand that's already successful and has made billions, and then they've just come to the NFT space to make more money. So I would prefer to see a smaller kind of brand or an NFT collection, such as NFHeroes, be a winner in this space when it comes to the toys.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more from you, Ben, and a lot more from you, Mike. Everyone should check out NFHeroes, Weird Whales, if they can buy one, if they can afford one. But I'm sure we'll be seeing other things. And as Ben said, I think the best thing to do is to learn, to go and, go onto the marketplaces and experiment. It isn't the most user-friendly place now, but this space is moving so quickly that, get on the train, because your competitors are going to be on it before you know it, or they're already there. I want to thank everybody who attended this. Thank you very much. I really do hope this sparked a lot of interest in NFTs. This is definitely a great area for the toy community to investigate and to dip their toe in. So we do anticipate to see a lot more NFTs in the toy space. So thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.